and pop into Twitter here. Okay. One second here. Okay. I'll come right back to that in 1 second. The other one I want to mention is Foursquare. Foursquare is, we're actually going to be doing a webinar on Foursquare, and likely about 2 months from now. Foursquare is a very unique new geo-based social app, and what Foursquare essentially is, and I'm going to go in and just pull up Foursquare here as well. So let's see if the sites are up here. Great. So for those of you familiar with Twitter, obviously this is fairly simple. There's the search bar at the start. Type in jobs, right? And let's see here. I was just thinking. So there is a real-time search component to this. Sorry, guys, the internet here is a little bit slow for whatever reason on us today. So I'll come back to this here shortly. Foursquare is the other piece that I want to talk about, and this is a really unique new tool that I think is going to become extremely hot in the recruitment space over probably the next 6 to 12 months. These guys have just cracked their 1 millionth user. They're on a hockey stick type growth play, and what it is you're able to check into certain locations, and for retailers, you can think about the opportunities. If someone's walking in a mall, and for them to know that there's a sale going on maybe 10 feet behind them or to the, right around the corner of the mall, they literally have to walk into that store or see some kind of marketing in the paper. Now what Foursquare does is it allows you, if you go walk through a mall with your iPhone and you click on your Foursquare app, it actually brings up all the within about a 100-yard radius of all the different businesses and things that have been put on Foursquare that are within your vicinity. So what happens here is you can actually put on specials that exist within Foursquare for people to actually see. So you imagine you're walking in the mall, you walk by the Gap, and all of a sudden you see there's an opportunity. There's the Gap, and then there's also the Gap Recruiting Center. So the ability to check in and log on to the Gap Recruiting Center almost real time. So it's taking the walk-in component. So you think about walk-in traffic. Well, could you be driving walk-in traffic through geo-based advertising? So kind of a neat concept that we're going to dig into. We're just about to test some new strategies around this. So I'm very excited about this, and we'll speak to that in about 2 months or so around that strategy. So I'm going to skip Twitter here because it seems to be a little bit slow for us at the current time, and continue on with the presentation. We've got the next area is the pay-per-click advertising. So another component of that multi-pronged sourcing strategy is pay-per-click. So search engine marketing, which is obviously Google, Yahoo, and Bing. And if you're unfamiliar with it or don't have that capability within your current recruitment team, that capability is fairly acquirable in the open market. There's quite a few people who've got experience with pay-per-click advertising. But at the same time, your marketing department can likely help you out that as well. So, and then the other piece is the social media advertising play. So when we go look at what the overall sourcing strategy is, linking into the overall recruitment strategy, pay-per-click advertising and social media advertising are two key areas that we dig into pretty heavily. From a search engine optimization perspective, I'm showing you here a screenshot of a very unique piece of technology that we use to go and optimize job postings. So typical applicant tracking systems, you go post your job, but that job content's not submitted to the open web, which is a bit of a challenge. One of the things that we're going to see a big difference is, and one of the things you should think about, is the different ways to go optimize your actual jobs, and there's some very unique ways to do it. From a search engine optimization side of things, 10 times more people Google for jobs than they do go to major search engines to go find out about job opportunities. So the majority of traffic to Craigslist and Monster and Workopolis and Career Builder is actually search engine optimized content. So people are searching for, and this has been now researched fairly aggressively as far as how people search for jobs. They search by job title plus location or location plus job title. So when you start thinking about some of the regions you're having challenges with, you may want to think about how you're optimizing your jobs. And there are some very unique ways to go about optimizing your job content in a fashion that the search engines will love. Examples, this is retail manager job Calgary, and you can't see that gray, but you can see this is where the job boards are coming up. So what we're seeing is the job boards are winning at this game, and they have won, and that's why they get our dollars, because they're great at capturing that search engine traffic. What we're seeing and what we're seeing a dramatic push for is companies wanting to go and get their content through the search engines in a much more effective manner. There's been quite a few companies in the last 12 months that have started up to go and provide these types of services directly to clients. We know that there's a handful of recruitment technology companies that are really pushing hard right now and making some major noise in the market, because what they've got the ability to do is anybody can go reach that end user, because if they're going to search for Google, then you can absolutely go win that game. So this is where the pay-per-click advertising comes in. We find pay-per-click advertising and search engine optimization works extremely well in the remote communities in Canada, because of the fact that there's not a lot of reach of the major job boards into some of those small communities. So I could spend 7 hours talking about the search engine optimization component, but I think the core of it is you need to go, and as part of the strategies, you need to go optimize your jobs. And some of the tactics you can look at this is looking at the type of tools you're using to go push your jobs out, looking at where you're putting your jobs on the web, and the type of expertise that you've got to go optimize those individual job postings. A couple tools that I just want to mention here for you, and this is a bit of a quick tip. I highly recommend that if you've got any kind of career page or career site, that you put in Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a free tool. It'll give you some phenomenal analysis on which job boards and which referral pages are actually giving you great traffic. It'll also tell you how people are finding your careers website, so which keywords that they're using to go find it. And this is a very, very simple thing for your IT department to put in place for you as well, and I highly recommend that you look at that tool, because it's a way to go measure a lot of the sourcing strategy. The next one is Hootsuite. Hootsuite's a fantastic tool. They've got a fairly good-sized office here in Vancouver. Hootsuite is a social media publishing and management tool. It is free. What it allows you to do is it allows you to post content out to your Twitter and Facebook pages directly from one outlet, and gives you great stats on who's clicking through stuff. So when you think about ways on how to go get your jobs onto Twitter or onto Facebook, Hootsuite's a great tool to help facilitate that. So certainly not a strategy, but it's just a tool to help execute on some of the tactical pieces day to day. So I'm going to run the last poll here for everyone, and then we'll kind of move into the home stretch here of the webinar. The final poll is somewhat interesting, I think, for everyone on the call. Have you started to see an increase in demand as far as, I know we've coming out of 2009, the demands were low, but I'm curious if the people on the call recognized an increase in volume coming through, i.e. signs of the market coming back. Okay, we're just about another 10 seconds here. Okay, great. So I'm just going to close this poll up. So it's about in and around about a 50-50 split, yes and no. Interestingly, depending on which regions you operate in Canada, I'm sure if you're national or focused on certain provinces or certain metros, we started to see a bit of an increase. That's a very good sign. I think that people are, the hiring rates are starting to go up, which is why this is probably a very timely, for those of you without a formal recruitment strategy in place, probably a good time to start thinking about how you're going to go build that talent bench over the next couple of years using some of the more unique sourcing strategy components. So I want to talk now about the recruitment technology piece. And for those of you who are on this call with an applicant tracking system, I think this is extremely applicable for both you and the ones also who don't have a piece of recruitment technology in place. My opinion, these aren't basic features because it's basic features that you should have in a system, that you should require in a system. These aren't necessarily basic features that exist in every system in the market. So a couple of key things: job portals, so the ability to obviously post your jobs on a portal and push it onto your main careers website. Now that's a standard feature with any applicant tracking system that you get. What I'd recommend is you make sure that you look for one with multiple branded portals. And why that's important is it allows you to go build separate campaigns. You may also have an organization with different brands. So, it may be an overriding company with multiple retail brands underneath it. This is where you need to make sure you've got a system that's got the ability to do multiple branded job portals. The next piece is the resume parsing technology, and I should mention I'm going to go give examples of many of this here fairly shortly. Resume parsing technology is essentially the ability to go and upload your resume as a candidate, and the system pulls that resume apart and puts it into all the applicable fields. Now, there's a couple reasons why this is important, and I'm actually I don't know if I'm going to be able to give an example of it, but I can certainly kind of show you here briefly. The resume parsing, and the majority of systems do have this, but what we're finding is right now in the market, and you think about this, it's attached to your sourcing strategy, but more importantly, it's more of a candidate experience perspective. If you're going to spend a whole bunch of time and energy on attracting candidates to your careers website, you want to make it as simple as possible to capture that candidate, and in the same way as capturing leads from a sales and marketing perspective. Let's see here. So the piece from the capturing side is, I've seen many retailers, they go put a system in place, and ultimately they make candidates have to jump through hoops to finally get their application submitted. I think what's very important is you try to make the application system as simple and as clean as possible. And again, I will try to do a demo. The next piece is the electronic pre-screening and ranking. So with the volumes right now, and I'm sure the same problem exists for many of you on the call, is the volume of candidates that are being submitted is astronomical. So it's much larger than it's ever been, and having electronic pre-screening is extremely important to go and be able to go filter through the thousands of applicants you may be getting on a weekly basis. So if you're looking for a system, it's absolutely mandatory that both they've got this pre-screening and some kind of a ranking system, whether it's percentage-based or color-coded based on how they answer those questions. Quality of hire tools, the ability to go create interview guides and sync up a lot of your talent profiling. So as I mentioned at the top of the hour here, that it was very important to make sure who are you targeting and for what types of positions, and making sure that is embedded directly into the entire screening and the quality of hire play. So quality of hire tools, can you plug assessment vendors into this? If you identify an assessment vendor, you don't want to have to go use another piece of software to go drive those candidates through the workflow. Multiple workflows is the other thing that I should mention, which is a very important feature that you should be looking for. Multiple workflows is allowed to go create different steps in the process for different types of roles. You'd hire a cashier very differently than you would hire a district manager, for example. Ad hoc reporting, the definition of that is making sure your system has the ability to go and you can create custom reports on the fly. You're not locked down with a standard set of reports. Stable API, so for the more techie people on the call here, what we're finding is there's a real lack of the ability to integrate a lot of the older applicant tracking systems with some of the new bells and whistles that exist, and even challenges with HRIS integration. Really evaluate how stable that API is, and for the HR people on the call, make sure that your IT team is really evaluating, can you go plug things into the system longer term, because you don't want to have to change your applicant tracking system in a year to be able to go incorporate new tools and technology. And the other thing to look for in a technology company is ask them for their roadmap and what they're trying to do around the sourcing functionality within their system. We're finding right now that there's a lot of great applicant tracking systems on the market. Many of them are not spending any money on developing their technology. So I think it's very important that you look at what kind of map do they have around sourcing functionality. So as I mentioned earlier, are there jobs in RSS feeds at the current time? Well, if they aren't, if you don't have the ability, do they have that on the roadmap? Are they planning on making those jobs portable, for example? What have they got as far as integration? Can the jobs automatically be pushed to Twitter and Facebook? So I certainly encourage you to challenge your current vendors and also potential future vendors on what is their roadmap around the sourcing functionality, because what you'll find, depending on how high a volume of hiring you're going to be doing, you could be wasting thousands and thousands of dollars on a monthly basis in 2 years from now if you don't have a system that automatically pushes your jobs out to Facebook and Twitter, because your competitors will likely have systems that do that, where you'll have someone doing it manually. The recruitment process, so really quick.